In this video, we're going to talk about how to write the equations of the line. It's a summary of all the different things you've already done. So let's talk about what we're going to see here. We're going to have, first of all, here's one piece of information you can find. Maybe they give you the slope at a certain point. So the number one thing you need to keep in mind is that your normal form of the equation is mx plus b. We always have to remember that. It's just something that you will never forget. So we're going to plug in what we know. We know the slope. Do you remember which letter is slope? Is it M or is it B? Because we're going to plug in what we know. We know the slope is 8, so in for M, we're going to put 8 because M stands for slope. X plus B. So it looks like what we don't know is B. Remember what B is? It's your y-intercept, or your starting point. Okay, it's when x is 0, what is y? So, but we do have a point. So take a look at this. We have one point, and remember, a point is always in the form x comma y. And when we have a particular point, we can plug that in as well, because here's what we want. We want this rule right here that you see to work for this point. So that's saying that if I plug in -2, my answer should be 3. So the question is, what b would make that work? So I'm going to do one more plugging in. I'm going to plug in 3 for y. I'm going to keep my 8. And I'm going to plug in -2 for x. And I'm going to leave b alone. I'm actually trying to find what b is. So I'm going to solve now for b. So you've done this before, but now we're just putting it all together. So it looks like we're going to add 16 to both sides, and we get 19 equals b. So I've solved for b. Remember, my ultimate goal is to be able to write the equation. So my equation now is, I already had half of it to start with. Now I can finish it. Y equals 8x plus 19, because I got 19 for b, and my slope was given to me as 8. So I put in 8 for m and 19 for b. And if I were to check, I could plug in -2. I should get an answer of 3 when I plug in -2. That means the rule works for the information I was giving. There's your answer for example number 1. So let's take a look at the next example. Now we're given 2 points. So remember, the goal remains the same. The goal is to find the rule mx plus b. Remember m is your slope, and b is your y-intercept. So I need to find these 2 things. Do you remember how to find the slope when given 2 points? To find the slope when given 2 points, remember we do the slope formula. We subtract the y's, and we subtract the x's, and we put rise over run. So we're going to subtract the y's and subtract the x's. Let's see. y2, we'll make this y2, and this will be y1. Remember, y is the second part of every point, and we're going to subtract 4 minus 1 over. Since we went in this direction, we need to do the same thing for the bottom. So now we're going to do 0 minus -3. 0 minus -3. Subtract the y's on top, subtract the x's on bottom. Yes, it's important to have the minus -3, because it's very different than just -3 or adding -3 or just 0 minus 3. It's a very different problem. So on top, we're going to get 3. On the bottom, we're going to remember our tricks to subtracting negatives and understand that that's going to give us +3. One more simplifying step, and we get the answer of 1. Remember, this formula was to help us find m. So we're halfway to our final goal of finding the rule y equals mx plus b. Since my slope is 1, I'm going to put a 1 in for the m. So now I have half of the problem solved. My next step is to find the y-intercept. So I'm going to plug in the point that I know, just like we did in the previous example. So once we have the slope, now we plug in a point to find the intercept. Because my rule y equals 1x plus b, the b has to work. If I plug in -3, I should get an output of 1. So if I plug in -3 for x, I should get a y value of 1, because that is what this says. So I plugged in my -3 and my 1 in for my x and my y. Now let's see what I get. So y equal 1 equals -3 plus b. Solving for b, I get an answer of 4. b equals 4. Now I have my y-intercept, and I can finish my rule. So my rule becomes y equals 1x plus 4. So that's the answer you would give on your paper for this, the equation of the line with this that goes through these 2 points. Because we found the slope and we found the y-intercept. Remember, you can check your line by plugging in the other point and checking if it gives you the answer of 4. This is a great thing to do, especially if you're worried about this equation here for slope. Sometimes we make mistakes on it. So if we're worried about this equation, a way we can check our work is by plugging in 0 here and doing 1 times 0 plus 4 and making sure we get the right answer for y. And it looks like we will, because anything times 0 is 0, plus 4 is 4. We get y equals 4, which is what we're supposed to get. When we plug in 0, we're supposed to get 4. Maybe some of you are really swift and notice that this point is in fact a y-intercept. This point right here is a y-intercept. So we could have used that from the very beginning. But I'm trying to teach you an idea of how to do it every single time, even if you're stuck. You can always do it this way if you're not given the y-intercept. Let's look at one more example, and then you'll try some problems on your own. The next example, the goal is to write the equation again, and they give us the x-intercept and a y-intercept. So let's not forget, the number one goal here is to write the equation. So I'm starting with mx plus b. I have to find the slope, and remember b is the y-intercept. This problem is unique because they give me the y-intercept. They give me the y-intercept of -3. So I already know that b is -3. So I have half of my equation again. But the other thing they give me is an x-intercept. So I got to figure out how to use this information about the x-intercept. Remember, an intercept means that something's 0. So for a y-intercept, it means that x is 0, and that means that y is -3. So you have to remember that a y-intercept tells you that it crosses y at -3, and that means that x is 0. X-intercept is the opposite. X-intercept means that x is 4 and y is 0. So the important thing with intercepts is to remember that somebody's 0, and you have to decide who it is that's 0. With an x-intercept, x has the number, and y is the 0 value. And with the y-intercept, it's the other way around, of course, because y now has the value, and x is 0. So I'm going to do the same thing I've done with all the other problems. I'm going to plug in what I know. I'm going to plug in this point after interpreting the fact that an x-intercept is 4, that means the point is 4, 0. So where x is, I'm going to put a 4, and where y is, I'm going to put a 0. And I'm going to solve for m, because that's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to plug in 0 for y, m is what I'm looking for, times 4 plus -3. Let's see, I'm going to rewrite that as 4m plus -3 equals 0, because that's the same thing. Let's see, solving for m, I'm going to add 3 to both sides. I'm going to get 3 equals 4m. And I'm going to do one last step, divide both sides by 4. Your goal is to get your m alone. It looks like this is my m value here. I'm going to leave it as a fraction. This is a nice decimal, but fractions are more preferred when we're writing rules because they're easier to graph. So my m value is 3/4, so here for m, I'm going to put 3/4. So my rule is y equals 3/4 x plus -3. Okay? Don't forget, you could have used the slope formula here. We could have done subtraction and made the fraction that way. But this also will work. The good news is you can plug in wherever you have some information you know, you can plug it in and solve for what you don't. So the goal here for you is to solve the next set of problems. Okay, they follow exactly what these examples were. You have 2 problems like example 1, 2 problems like example 2 and 2 problems like example 3. So take some time, watch the video again when you get to the example, the problems if you don't remember how to do it, but see what you can remember because the process is the same even if the questions look a little different. So do your best, ask questions of your teacher, and make sure that you watch the video again if you need some more help.